that most times, you know, women, whether they serve in politics, whether they're serving at the hospitals, whether they're serving in the media, what we constantly hear is that women are empathetic. They usually place themselves in the shoes of those that they are representing or those that they're dealing with. What is it like when you are faced with situations that, you know, may seem beyond your situations where you may not necessarily be able to intervene at the time it is necessary, as you would have done with this individual that you spoke about?
Well, you know, when the situation presents itself, to me there is always something you can do. And the first thing you ought to do is to listen. I always think that is the most important thing. You sit, you listen, and you try to journey with that person in terms of analyzing the situation and asking the right questions and guiding. You might not, the person might come and want you to repair a house. You might not be able to do so, but you might be able to guide a person in terms of, where have you worked? Are you working? Do you need a job? Should you be thinking of, you know, so you guide that person in terms of different directions. You refer them sometimes, some of them have to be referred to different institutions of government. You do that. And sometimes you have to analyze the situation to know whether it's a genuine need or not. That's another situation. It's always very difficult. And I always try to give the person the benefit of the doubt. And most times we get some comfort in assisting that person.
That is,
yeah.
I think
comfort.
That is wonderful news, because
yes,
most times people are left with the view that some things are just bigger than the parliamentary rep, and so there is no intervention.
I will share that story actually. There was a lady who kept coming 2, 3, 4 times, and she was really trying to get assistance to complete her home. And maybe on the 4th occasion, I started questioning her deeper, and she referred to her deceased husband. And then I asked the question, well, is he working? What is the situation? Only to find out that the lady was entitled to an NIC widow's pension.
Oh, wow.
And I had to walk her through that journey.
Wow.
And help her get that pension, so that with that pension she could then go and repair her house. So wow. I'm saying listening, a little guidance, and I think more than anything else. And that's what we have to do. And I want to take this moment, JJ, to say that the issue of guidance is one that is not just the remit of politicians. It is something that as individuals, we ought to pay a lot more attention to the people around us. When you look at our situation now with persons committing suicide and so on, I think we need to call our people to a different level of realization that we need to pay attention to our families, the people around us in the homes, and just have that open conversation. Even the person that you pass on the street. Sometimes you could see the face, you just approach it, just say good morning, or why are you not smiling? Open a conversation, because sometimes that is what the person needs.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Minister Reynolds, I want to speak to the whole issue of role models. You know, we hear all of the time, and even in my role when I served as press secretary and now, constantly I get messages from young girls and from women who speak to all of the positive things that they like about you, and would sometimes say to you that I see you as a role model. I would love to emulate you. I would love my child to emulate you. Certainly that kind of interaction can put you under pressure as a female parliamentarian, as a female minister of government, because it seems as if the bar is a little different as to how the public would view women in politics versus how the public will view men in politics. What say you on that?
Yes, indeed. That's why I said it's very rewarding because you get opportunities to really interact with persons at all levels. From the elderly who would want to hug and to really have a quarrel, a nice quarrel. Yeah. From the young ones, the teenagers who want to do selfies. I was on my way to the mentoring walk on Saturday with the women and running late, and some of the young men in the Taliban community flagged me down and said, we need a selfie.
I would think by now you're up to speed with what a selfie is.
And I thought to myself, I am running late here, but this, and I had I said, okay, I had to get out of the vehicle,
Yes.
stand with them, and then everybody came with their phones, so lots of selfies
My
with
goodness.
them, and they wanted to post it out there. So you have to learn how to
Interact
be
with them.
flexible, how to interact with them, and how to respond to, and even I got a little telling off from a group of young men up at Demerara. I was rushing back to a meeting, and they said, prostrate. And I reversed, and I said, what did you say? He said, you have not stopped. So I had to apologize.
Wow.
And say, he said, yes, miss, I know you. I can imagine you relate. And I had to apologize to them and say, okay, I will see you on Sunday because I will be back. And that's what they really wanted. So and Sister Emma said it about humbling and responding to what persons would need to probably make their day. It's about the human side. That is that side of being compassionate, being and when you speak about role models, persons, women who've led institutions, countries, for example, I look at...
People often look up to them to find something about them that would attract them. But when we come back from the break, we'll continue that discussion. And I want to speak a little bit about the cabinet dynamics. We'll be right back in the Red Zone after these commercial breaks. Please stay tuned. Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. We are having a discussion, and we are observing International Women's Day, which will be observed worldwide tomorrow. The Labour Party has a program of activities. There's a public meeting. That public meeting will be held on Thursday, March 10th, in the constituency of Gros Islet, in the town of Gros Islet. And that public meeting will begin at 7 p.m. We're inviting you to join us. It'll be a special platform, a platform of women. Of course, we are backed by a very strong leader who believes that a woman has her place in the decision-making process, and so he will close off the meeting, but we'll have a platform of women. As I mentioned, our Prime Minister, I want to speak a little bit about cabinet. Any of you can go first. Do you sometimes feel outnumbered in cabinet? Because we have 3 ladies in cabinet, our Attorney General, you know, and yourself representing your various ministries, and from time to time you would have to put in a word for your constituency. Do you feel overwhelmed or outnumbered by, you know, the presence of so many men at that decision-making table?
No, I don't, and I don't think, no, it's it's a great relationship. It's competition, but very healthy competition. We're told that we're very aggressive. I've been called tick. I've been called all kinds of names.
Once you're in Gros Islet, Auntie Emma won't put that pen down. I know that.
Yeah, so I've been, one time the ministers complained to the Prime Minister and said that I was actually quarreling with them. And he came and said, Minister, why are you quarreling with the men? And they said I was getting a little bit like Emma here. And I said to Prime Minister, because they don't listen.
Wow.
So sometimes, you know, they figure that's just too much for them.
Yes.
So you have to find out which one on you.
But I get the feeling you two team up sometimes to fight the battles.
Well, it's not a matter of fighting the battle. It's a matter of representing your constituents.
Right.
And when you have an issue impacting your constituent, you need to present it and you need to defend your position.
Yes, and to stick to your
And
position
to stick
until
to
you get results.
stick to your guns.
And I must say, if it's
yes, this is all you.
Yes, and if it's a situation where it affects women,
Yes.
usually we'll pull it together. And we have a very understanding cabinet.
Okay,
for example, when we look at putting boards together and we're working towards that, and we say there must be that balance.
Gender balance.
Gender balance. Always that will come up. And no matter what happens, that concept will remain on the table.
Beautiful.
Okay, and so there is no compromise when it comes to how we put a board together. And we look at persons with capacity. It's not just because for women's sake, and that's why around the cabinet table, it's not because you're a woman that you're going to get it. It's because, as Sister Emma says, you put through your case and you defend and you justify. You have to come good just like any other person. And so you learn each minister what will make them tick and how you negotiate, how you will and deal. It's about that. And it's good good fun sometimes. I mean, we have our arguments.
But I also want to add that I think the Prime Minister being the chairman of cabinet as well, that is one thing he has done very well, is to respect parliamentarians.
Very good.
So if you have an issue, you go to the Prime Minister, whether you decide that maybe it is prudent to have a private discussion with him first, and then the ministers, or if you think your minister is not delivering what you expect him or to deliver, then you go to the Prime Minister and say, we need some action, I need your intervention. And that's managed.
Despite the strides that we have made, and you know, the fact that once upon a time, the House of Assembly, we had 17 men sitting around a table and making decisions. We now have one female on the opposition side, and we have you and Minister Reynolds on the government side. With the presence of women in Parliament, with the presence of women in Cabinet, there is an expectation that the women will not just represent their constituencies and their ministries, but that the women will be champions for some of the issues affecting our women. One of the difficult issues, a very difficult issue to talk about, a very difficult and emotional issue, not just for the victims, but for a lot of families and a lot of communities, is the issue of rape. And it is a problem that we are facing as a society. It's a problem that we seem to be still trying to find the answers to. There is an expectation. Well, firstly, for you, Honorable Hippolyte, because you are the parliamentary representative for Grosley, and a number of the reported cases seem to be coming out of Grosley. So there's an expectation on that end. And then, as Minister for Gender Relations, there is an expectation that the minister will speak each time there is an issue, and beyond speaking, that there will be action. Certainly, this would be an issue that would be taking up a lot of your time and would be occupying your thoughts. And I really want to hear what exactly has been the response to date and what are the plans moving forward, whether it be as female parliamentarians or as a government. How do we address this difficult, problematic situation that we face as a nation?
Yes, I will start with it, JDO.
Sure.
And not only rape, but we're looking at it in the whole context of sexual violence. Also taking into consideration domestic violence and child abuse, sexual abuse.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the whole gamut as
Sure.
it pertains to
Sure.
violence. And yes, Minister Hippolyte and myself have had good conversations about this in terms of action, a national dialogue on the issue of rape as it pertains to what we see happening in the northern part of the country. But it's happening around the country. Not all reports may come to us,
Sure.
but certainly you get some of those reports coming from the north. And so in the first place, we look at the national dialogue. For us as a ministry, it was not enough to pull some people around the table at a hotel and have a dialogue and say action going forward. No. We needed everyone to be involved and to hear this dialogue. And so we have planned at the ministry level a series of live television shows or in-studio discussions as it pertains to rape. What is the issue? Even looking at the profile of rapists, what is the legislation, and also to the Attorney General's office has partnered with us. What is in the legislation? Where are the support services? All of these bits of information need to be told to the St. Lucian population. But more than that, a lot of what we see has to do with after rape.
Yeah.
Penalties,
Yeah.
support services after the fact. I am someone who believes in prevention, always prevention. And so another component coming in is, what do you do to prevent rape from occurring? And as we dialogue with the police force, Home Affairs, we come to that concept of self-awareness. And I know last year, two officers were going around to various agencies, talking to persons within different government agencies, and to talk about self-awareness. Not only women, but men as well, because men too are abused, and young boys. And so what is it we need to know as it pertains to walking home, on a bus, taking rides from strangers, going to a social event, the drinks we accept from people, in our vehicles, and leaving our vehicles unlocked, jumping in and not looking at what is there, our front doors unlocked when we're in the back, all of those things, that vigilance must be heightened. And so we put together that plan that the police officers will be on that show in studio talking to St. Lucian population.
Are we going to have an outreach? Because a lot of people seem to be saying, but when we do it at that national level and we're talking to people, we may not necessarily be reaching the vulnerable people, you know, and in the same manner that perhaps we canvass and go door to door when we speak to people.
That too is coming along, yes. That too is coming along, where the two officers are actually, one has agreed to go wherever necessary to meet with groups of women at the grassroots level, to speak to them and interact with them as it pertains to awareness. What you talk about awareness in Gros-Islet may not necessarily be what obtains in Barbano.
Understood.
What may, for example, we have officers at the Environmental Health Department, and they go to visit sites as it pertains to doing assessment for homes. And so they go into areas where it's one house miles up a mountainside. These female officers ought not to go there alone, especially they're going for the first time on their own. Officers don't carry that kind of weapon. What if something happens? Some stranger in the area, they stop to ask somebody from the community, where is this house located? Who knows what a rapist looks like? And so these are situations that we have to be aware of and manage so that there is prevention, there is that awareness at all times.
And
so
I think it's calling for an entire change in our mindset, how we view ourselves, how we view our communities, and maybe too how we view our neighbors. For me, it is a very scary and sobering reality that we need to face, that our society is changing.
It's changed, has changed, and continues
to move in.
And familiarity now means nothing. Once upon a time, familiarity almost instinctively meant love, a community where your neighbor looked after the neighbor. And all of this I'm hearing, and some of the changes that we need to make suddenly is saying that we need to change how we view ourselves and our environment completely. But Honorable Hippolyte, the Gros-Islet dynamics, how it is that as a parliamentary rep you believe you can put it all together and pull everyone together to begin to deal with this problem?
The issue is we need to work, the minister said it, we have started that engagement. We need to work together. I cannot do it alone. We require the police, we require the schools, we require the youth groups, we require the parents, neighborhood watch. You know my position about what I see on a Friday night, especially in Gros-Islet. I've been talking about it for a long time. I don't think we have reached where we wanted to reach in terms of the assistance of the police to curb that. But I believe very clearly that sometimes we expose ourselves, as I said, by what we do and where we go. I believe as well that when you look at what is happening in the community, the role of neighbors, the neighborhood watch is key as well, in terms of seeing an unfamiliar face and recognizing that that person is not from this community. And to start, if you know, where I live, when I see somebody there, if it's a vehicle, I stop and say, hello, good morning, can I help you?
Yes. And I can jump
because,
a little bit, JD, in that regard, as you know, we are all talking about infrastructure and roads. We always want smooth roads in our constituency. And so when roads are constructed, people start moving into communities, especially if there's a link road going through a community. And that's the concern I'm hearing from residents. When you open up a new road, people start driving around, and you don't know who's driving through, who's scouting the area, which house, and you know who lives there, because there is a plan in place. So at all times, and definitely to strengthen the neighborhood watches, because people move in, and people say, well, put speed bumps next, because you don't know, they just drive through.
And it goes back to that whole thing of living in fear of the unknown. We'll go to a commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion, and we'll share with you, we'll continue to share with you some of the actions, but we also want to share with you some of the initiatives of the individual parliamentary representatives as it relates to keeping women safe and also recognizing and awarding women of excellence in their constituencies. We'll be right back after the commercial break. the red zone. Already I'm receiving messages that I suspect this show will be too short. You can begin to send in your WhatsApp messages, 7204992. Again, 7204992 is the number to send your WhatsApp messages. You can speak about your concerns. You can ask questions to the parliamentary representatives. Of course, in 1 hour, it would be impossible to cover every single issue that you may have. But if I get the messages, I can fit them in and ask questions of our parliamentary representatives. We were speaking about, you know, some of the issues affecting women and the initiatives that can and will be taken. You know, we spoke about being aware of our environment and organizing the neighborhood watches. Some people are now going as far as calling for women to be armed.
Yes, and I recall during that news item as it pertains to pepper spray and women to be armed. In fact, part of the 4 programs, it's a series of 4 that we're doing for the month of March as we celebrate International Women's Day, is demonstrations for karate, defensive classes for women to see how you can defend yourself against an attack. And some of the initiatives are not just starting now. It was something that we pushed so very hard at the ministry as it pertains to parenting, the family values, how we raise our boys, how we raise our girls, how we as women and men conduct ourselves in the home so our children learn from us, the role models that you spoke to earlier. And if you have a family with violence and slapping around all the time, our boys will think that it's okay to go out there and violate any woman at all because they figure they have a right to, because women are lower subjects, women are not important or not significant. So we have started parenting programs across the board in health centers, in communities, to begin to give young mothers and fathers a skill of parenting, to know how to teach their boys and their girl children or child how to respect people, but more than that, how to respect self. And so we look at across the board, child protection, protection of self. We will look at other initiatives as it pertains to self-awareness. What do you do with your own self to protect yourself? Nobody can do this better than you. And so it will be taught across the board. And yes, the officers are looking at, and I want to say a special good evening to Officer Pelius. She approached me and said, yes, she really has a few ideas that she wishes to share with us as it pertains, because she looks at the statistics and what's coming. And Minister Lacobin, we've shared what is coming to the fore for us. We use that information to plan. It's not just jump up on anything that comes forward. We have even started from last year, Minister could say that we've been going back and forth with the Sexual Offenders Register. That is something that we have started.
Been a big topic.
Yes, we have started the discussion with the Attorney General, the Home Affairs Minister, across the lunch table. That's
I think
a healthy
many
debate.
people will be happy to hear that, because many persons have been seeking the government's position on that, as to where does the government stand. And I know some believe that it will not make a difference, while some are of the opinion that we need to start somewhere, and perhaps this is where we can start. So the fact that this discussion is happening at that level, I think it will bring comfort to many persons who have been championing this, not just those who have been in the media, but there are individuals who are seeking answers, and probably they find this one is a low-hanging fruit that we can begin to act on.
And when we look at our young people, that is another issue that came up in the discussion as it pertains to protection of our young people and persons who are on social media. While they walk, they're on their phones, they have headphones on, they have things on, and they're not aware. The question is, the statement is that no one has a right to attack anybody. But we do not live in an ideal world. We do not know who or what is behind or to the side of us. Somebody may appear to be as genuine as they come, and growing up with wolf in sheep clothing and so on, all kinds of things.
But who is going to tackle these boys and these men, which is my whole issue in this big discussion. I can do everything to protect myself. As is being seen right now, people are being attacked in their home. People walk into their homes to find intruders. People are being raped in their bedrooms. I can do everything to protect myself, and I can follow the book. I can do self-defense. Who is speaking to the men and the boys, the pedophiles, those who are walking around, the rapists, the sick people out there? Who is talking to them? Who is reaching out to them? Who is trying to get to the root cause of the problem to fix them?
Well, there are several sides or facets to that deep problem. It goes back to nurturing, it goes back to mental health, and that's why I said we're looking at the profile of a rapist. And a rapist may be someone who rapes just that, or it could be within a relationship. So there is that kind of rape as well happening. It goes back to behavior, it goes back to nurturing, it goes back to rehabilitation. It takes years sometimes to rehabilitate someone who is a sexual offender. And I don't even know how many years it takes, or that level within the penal system, within Borderly, as it pertains to having somebody back out in the society. But as it pertains to on the sexual offenders register, persons, sometimes you need to know that this person may not have been rehabilitated, have served their time. They've done the time, but may not have been rehabilitated. Opportunity presents itself, there we go again. Talking is not only what we need to do. There is need to bring in, I think, to have that level of specialists within the system who can do that level of rehabilitation. Persons come to Borderly with a range of issues and that they are charged with. And so what would obtain for rapists would not be what obtains for someone who did robbery or something else.
So there has to be a greater
specific,
focus on.
specific and investment, because specialists at that level will not come cheap. It's a special kind of investment that you need to put into your correctional facility. But in the meantime that you may not have that facility, you have counselors, yes. And how many persons do you have? The sessions that you have to pay for. How many? And the role of the family in growing up. The behaviors that they may see being exhibited by that child, that young boy, that he's violent towards girls, towards women. We sometimes know those, but we hide. We do not, we protect.
And I
we
think the
do
schools
not want
can
to,
play a critical role because
vigilant.
teachers pick up on some of the things as well.
We need to stop, nib it in the bud. If this teenager, if this grade 5 child has seen something in his or her home, to begin to make him think that it's okay to have sex, to do that kind of violence against a young girl in his class or an elderly lady down the road, somebody would know something. This child needs an intervention. So yes, we need those kinds of interventions at all levels.
I agree. And this message says, all I have to say, JD, good night to 3 beautiful ladies. Like how you're talking and I'm enjoying the show. Of course, that is coming from someone who says they're in Team Pharaoh. That is support for Jerome Gideon. Someone says, I think we really need to point out that all of the issues that are affecting women are affecting society as a whole. If a woman is not able to function as that nurturer, as a mother, as a supporter, and now in our instance as a provider, it breaks down the entire family system. And so I'm hoping that even as we focus on women, we do not neglect what is happening with our male population. And another message says, I really want to reach out to the 2 female parliamentary representatives. I know it cannot be easy shining in a man's world. Politics has been dominated by men. They have gone through unfair attacks by their opponents, but I like how they continue to represent with class. I want to also say congratulations to Honorable Emma Hippolyte. She has done something that no other parliamentary representative has done. She has taken time out every year to recognize the women in her constituency. I hope you will be able to touch on that. And I will tell you, writer, this is exactly where I was going. And I did indicate this is something that it's an annual event for you as parliamentary representatives. Tell us a little bit about honoring women on International Women's Day or in observance of International Women's Day. I remember attending your ceremony last year.
We had it last year, and we're going to have it again this year. But I just want to say that we recognize women, we also recognize men.
Nice.
So this is gender balance and gender parity.
Yes.
Right.
Which is what we need.
Which is what we need.
Yes.
And this year, tomorrow, God willing, we will recognize some 16 women from various parts of the constituency, for various contribution to tourism, to the baking sector, to catering to manufacturing to business to social work to health and wellness and pastoral work, to education, a mix. And I mean, we could have one of 50 because, you know, the names were just coming. But we felt we are in 2016, so we decided to pick up the 16.
Ah, understood.
And that is what we did. And I'm excited about tomorrow. Our ladies, we are extremely proud of them when we look at the bios and what they have achieved. And some of them have done it on their own, being single parent, business person, and they've just remained focused. And I think it's so important that we celebrate them so that our young ones coming up, our young entrepreneurs, our single mothers, young single mothers, could look up to them and know that they can achieve and reach where others have reached if they remain focused and by one woman supporting another.
Yes.
And that is so important, by mentoring, by providing guidance, and just being there to guide. And I think that's another issue for me. And it's not only for women or for young girls, it is as a community, as a nation, we need to be there for each other. If we take the decision that we will commit ourselves to pulling somebody up, instead of pulling somebody down or pulling each other down, if we make just that little change, we would be seeing significant progress everywhere around us. So I think it's a commitment I've made for myself, and I just feel that our other sisters and individuals should make that commitment.
I agree, and not just sisters. I think
everybody, individual
needs to
commit.
Sure, indeed. When we come back, we'll be taking your messages and your calls. Stay right here. We'll be back after the break. I did suspect this program will be too short. In fact, I'm already receiving so many messages. But this is the time where we'll be taking your calls. You can call in with your questions or your comments. The telephone number is on the screen. In the meantime, I'll read some of the messages I have received so far. I believe that every parent has the responsibility to raise their children to be good and godly citizens. Those of boys must prepare them to be good husbands and fathers. Those of girls must prepare them to be virtuous wives and mothers. And this is a message that both parliamentary representatives have been putting forward so far. Another message says, I wish to congratulate our two ministers. They have represented women very well. Class, dignity, and neither of them have tried to be men. We have our first call. Good night, you're on the air. Hello, good night.
Sisters, how are you doing?
Very blessed, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Good. Are guys invited to this thing allotment?
Yes, yes, men are invited. We believe that men have their place. Men have their place at the table alongside women. And so men are invited to the public meeting as well. Men are invited to the church service that we will be having in Mico on the 13th. Men are invited to all of our activities.
Well, I'm very, very, very pleased that we are invited and we'll be there. JB, why are you running a seat for us, man? You're going to be a very good politician.
Wow, Caller, don't put me on the spot, but I don't think this is my place, at least for now. I'm not interested in elective politics. We have two very good representatives, and I believe some strong women will emerge. But for now, I think I'll focus on serving where I think my skill is best placed.
Please tell Sister Emma for me that she looks like a cute 16-year-old and I'm very proud of her.
She's right there, she can hear you.
and I don't
Thank you.
Sister as not to get any jealous.
Not at all, not at all.
Ladies, not gentlemen, ladies, happy International Women's Day and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Praise God. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You can continue to call in with your messages, to call in with your questions or your comments, and I'll be reading some of your messages as well. We'll go to the phone lines. Good night, you're on the air. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night.
Hi.
Good night.
Yeah, wow. I have two beautiful leaves, three beautiful leaves, but by 2 p.m. looking so beautiful. Big up to you all.
Thank you very
I
much.
could not even realize it was my PM that is there. Sister Emma,
Ah, your MP, you mean?
Hi.
Emma,
Hello.
big up.
Thank
I'm
you.
calling from Grand Riviere.
Beautiful.
I appreciate all what you do at Grand Riviere, especially you see the bridge you did by Asukanal.
Yes.
Kudos to you.
Thank
Oh
you.
my God, God will bless you.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you.
good night.
Thank you. God
Thank you
bless.
so much. And of course, you could hear the passion in her voice. You continue to call in. Good night. Very happy watching these three beautiful women, especially my district rep from Grosley. Keep doing the good work. I want to say to Honorable Alvina Reynolds that she has represented herself with class and dignity. I'm very proud to be a resident of Babonneau. We have our struggles, but she has been by our side every step of the way. It is not who can offer you the most money, but whose heart is in it for their constituency.
Well said.
We will continue to take your calls. Good night, you're on the air.
Hi, good night, JD, and good night to Honorable Reynolds and Honorable Hippolyte.
Good night, ma'am.
Good night.
Tonight, I am really inspired by your comments. And Minister Reynolds said something which is very important about actually prevention. And I like that word because too many times action has been taken after the fact. And I think young persons like myself listening to you tonight, and for me personally, had I known some of the things that I know now, a lot of things would have been different and so on. But then I also want to commend Ms. Hippolyte and so on. You are the first female acting Prime Minister, and that shows a level of confidence by this current Prime Minister and women and this whole thing of gender parity. I applaud the two of you and also Jadia. As a young person looking at you, you are also an inspiration to young women like myself. So thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much
much
for calling. This message says, hi, good evening, Jadia. Indeed, you are my role model. Wow. As a youth advocate and single parent, the challenges surpass our resources. We love to blame each other rather than be each other's keeper. The community no longer represents this strong family culture. That system worked tremendously. I know because I benefited from being raised by a core of people whose sole profit was to maintain the safety of one another. Our Minister Emma Hippolyte has been very active in her efforts to revive community spirits on all levels. She does not turn anyone away and pushes till she gets it done. She defines true representation. And we also love our PM. Good night. Thank you for calling. Hello. Good night.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Quick question for both of the MPs.
Sure.
What are your lifelong ambitions? Like, what do you see from politics? What do you see would be your lifelong ambition? What would you really like to achieve? Thank you. I'll listen over.
Thank you. What next?
Yes.
To do the will of the Father, and the will at the moment is to serve Him by serving you, and that's what I'm doing.
And for me, it's continued to be that sense of empowerment for people, and advocate for vulnerable people and for young people in particular. I've always loved working with young people at the community level, trying to empower, and through education. I always believe in education. You can go as far and soar. And I love to be that wind beneath people's wings, to see them rise. That for me is what it's about. Stepping back and see people go forward. So wherever it calls, I love being motivational speaking. That has been my passion for years. I've done that for many, many years. The counseling part of it that I've always done. So I'll continue to do that in whatever sphere, wherever it takes me, whether it's private or who knows. The world is an oyster. And so definitely I'll continue to serve in that area of counseling, area of empowerment of people, an area of education, and forever be an educator.
Indeed. This message says, Auntie M, we love you. Ladies, you are who we as young ladies want to aspire to. Jada, you're my daughter's role model. Well, thank you. Miss Reynolds, Babonneau is very lucky to have you. Keep up the good work, and that is coming from Grand Riviere. Good night. Thank you for calling.
Hi, good night, ladies.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Wish all our women of labor, including, in fact, I should do it in St. Lucia, because we're all St. Lucians, we're all women. Happy Women's Day. And we're celebrating one day for women. But honestly, every day is Women's Day to me. Because as parents, teachers, mothers, and politicians, we wake up every morning to do our, job as women. We're the pillar of our society. We do what we know to do best. Now, I need to bring up an issue of the rape and the murders and the suicides. It's a very touching topic to me. But sometimes when I listen to topics on the radio and hear people complain that it has to do with the politicians, it really, really gets to me. Because if every one of us are each and other's keeper, the young guys on the block who's committing those crimes, we all have to reach out to them. It's our duty. They're not the ones sitting on the radio or on the television listening to our cry, listening to how painful our mother, our brother, or sister, or our father feel when our children get raped. It's very sad. But at the same time, I think we need to hold our hands together. We need to pray together, and we need to reach out to these young boys. Because most times when people do things like that, they're actually doing it for attention. There's so many psychological reasons why people do things. So sometimes it really hurts me. I think when we start to blame the people that we elect to do what we, I think we need to hold everybody's hands in order to curb those kind of situations. Because crimes like that happen all over the world. It's not an isolated situation. It's a situation where people, our brains are wired differently. So I'm sending this message for all of us. Like Sister Emma, one of them said, when we see somebody walking with a smile on their face, we need to say hello, good day, how you feeling? Because this might be the breaking point for this person. You understand? So this is my message. I think you ladies are doing a very good job. You all look gorgeous. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
And we need to come out on Sunday. We need to come out, to applaud the women. Like I said, to me, when I wake up in the morning, it's a woman's day to me, because that's what I do, what I'm supposed to do as a woman. So we're taking this one day to celebrate Women's Day. I think we should all come out and let's celebrate.
Agreed.
Have a good night, ladies. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. As we wrap up, I just want to give, just before I go to the closing remarks, because we have just about 2 minutes, I want to remind everyone that on Thursday, the St. Lucia Labour Party will be hosting a public meeting in Grosley. That's Thursday, the 10th of March at 7 p.m. All are invited, men and women are invited. There is also a special church service to be held at the Catholic Church in Micoud. That is a village of Micoud on Sunday the 13th at 3 p.m. And the St. Lucia Labour Party will be honoring 4 centenarian supporters. And so you're invited to participate as well. As we close tonight's program, and I wish you both and everyone else happy International Women's Day, I just want to give you an opportunity for a very brief wrap-up.
Thank you, Jadia. As we talk about persons who are celebrating birthdays, my grand-aunt, Auntie Mildred Bissett of Gara Babon, will be 100 years. The 13th of March on Sunday.
Wow.
And so I only saw her on Sunday, and she's in good spirits and waiting to dance and shake a leg on Sunday. So yes, I really want to thank you for that opportunity to speak to the people of St. Lucia, both men, women, and young people. As we close, I want to say and echo what Sister Emma mentioned. We have made great strides, but there's so much that we have to do. And so I say, as women,
and I think it's part of the so much we need to do this again.
Yes, as ladies, we need to continue the struggle. We continue to fight. We need to take control again of our families, take control of our societies, our communities, to make it safe again. We have to denounce what the rapists are doing and tell them there's no place for you in our society. There's no place for you in our families. We have to take control of persons who have suicide ideations and say there's a reason to live. There's someone who loves you, someone who supports you, someone who wishes to embrace you. There are reasons to be happy. And so that permeation you see of negativity so often, we have to be very careful. Use of media, when we show so much of suicide and negativity, yes, there is negative, but I want to invoke the spirit of our forefathers. They battled in the undergrowth for freedom. They did not give up.
I agree with that.
How dare us give up? So let us continue in their spirit. Let us continue to work, man and woman, partners, in developing this beautiful country of ours and the families who we so cherish.
Indeed. And Tiama?
Yeah, thanks. JJ, first I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. I think it's a tremendous opportunity to communicate with our St. Lucia on this very important, the eve of International Women's Day. For me and for Grozile, we will be focusing the entire month of March.
Indeed, yes.
On women. So inviting people to continue checking my Facebook page. You'll get all the messages there.
Very good.
Tomorrow, I want to do something in addition to honoring our women. In the evening, I'll be visiting some of our senior women, those who are at home.
Okay.
So we can have about 16, December might be 20. And just go around and give them a hug and
to share some love.
To share some love with them. I also want to take this moment to celebrate all women in business and industry. I know they are solid and they are the bedrock of our industry here. And I also want to take this moment to congratulate Mrs. Paula Cauldron. The company got the President's Award last at the SMA.
On Saturday.
And I think, again, it's women putting every effort in keeping the companies together. I want to congratulate Dame Florence Laurent on her achievements and on her knighthood. We are all proud of her and what she has achieved and the contribution she has made to the development of both our society in terms of a solid educator. And I think persons like Salvina was the principal. So we have a lot of reasons to be thankful and to be proud.
Indeed.
So I want to close by thanking all women, especially those of Grozile, for the support and the prayers, and to say, just keep on doing what you're doing, sister.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you
Can
so
we
much.
take over your show and do something and wish Auntie Emma Happy International Women's Day and you Happy International
Thank
Women's
you.
Day.
Yeah.
And together we can look at the camera and say to the women of St. Lucia,
Happy International Women's Day.
We love
Very
you.
fitting way
We
to
love
end
you.
the
God
program.
loves you.
God loves you.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week, Monday, with another edition in the Red Zone. But again, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank all of St. Lucia, those who messaged, those who contributed in one way or the other. We continue to be here with you. We continue to support you. And of course, we look forward to your support. And that is the Women of Labour. Look forward to your support as well. Good night. We'll be back next week, Monday.
Thank you.
Great.
Good night.
Thank you.